All just a reminder to please use the hand raise function if you've got a question for Coach Baker, and we're going to go right into questions. We'll start with David Ferrones from the Sun Sentinel. David, if you had a question for Coach.
Hey, Blake, I want to know what the impact has been with Ed Reed. Not only what he did the whole offseason, but we saw him on the sidelines. He was pretty prominent on the telecast. How he's helping guys in games, and I guess even with officiating at times.
No, Ed's been awesome. He sees things a little differently, in the fact that he sees things from 30,000 feet. He isn't necessarily always in the forest. He's kind of seeing the woods through it, and kind of even coming up to me during the game and hey, did you see this? Hey, did you see that? So as far as instructing players and everything, because of NCAA rules, he can't really do that. But I don't think there's a rule about getting on the officials. So no, he's really, really been good for us, and he's fun to be around.
Coach, we're going to go to Susan Miller-Degnan at the Miami Herald. Susan, if you had a question for Coach Baker.
Hey, Coach Baker. I asked Manny Diaz about Chris Thompson, taking over as interim head coach for this game because of Mike Norvell and the COVID factor. And he said that the bigger key would be the actual play calling. And I did some research, and I saw Thompson was an interim head coach for like one game, I think in 2012, a long time ago. And he was a head coach for a Division II team for many years ago. What do you know about him, and how do you think that might affect the game, during the game? What do you have to prepare for?
From like Coach Diaz said, from a head coaching standpoint, as a defensive coordinator, it's probably not going to impact me as much as the actual play caller. It's something that we'll have to try to get a beat on early. Maybe what he likes from a down and distance standpoint or a situational standpoint. Probably continue throughout, evolve throughout the game. So, it'll be one of those kind of wait and see type deals. But as far as Coach Thompson being the head coach, I don't know how much that affects me in my play calling.
Well, I know he's an offensive-minded guy. So that's why I was asking.
I still think at their core, they've had all fall camp. I think at their core, they're going to be who they are. It's kind of hard to change completely in 4 days or whatever the time, 7 days, I guess. So I think that at their core, they'll be very similar.
Okay, thank you.
Coach, we're going to go to David Lake at Inside the U. David?
Yeah, Coach, I think after the UAB game, you said the corner play was average. Wanted your take on how they looked against Louisville, understanding Louisville has great wide receivers. But how do you feel like they played against Louisville?
I thought they played much better, especially DJ Ivey. I thought he responded well all week in practice, really got back to his training and his technique and played outstanding for us on the outside. Obviously, Al having that big interception, the first one to where the turnover chain was huge and a huge part of the game early in that game. So proud of the way they responded. And, it's going to be one of those deals to me where – and TC, let me not forget him. He had 2 forced fumbles, and he came out of center field a couple times and really had some big time hits there on the sideline. So overall, I thought they played much better, and really proud of the way they responded after UAB.
Coach, we've got Manny Navarro from The Athletic. Manny, if you had a question for Coach Baker.
Hey, Coach Baker, congrats on the win Saturday. Coach Diaz mentioned 5 guys who graded out on offense and defense as quote-unquote champions. I guess who were the 5 guys for you guys on defense that graded out as champions?
You put me on the spot here, Manny.
Sorry.
Dude, I don't remember what I ate for breakfast this morning, let alone who was champions last week, man. It's Florida State week.
I know.
I know. DJ played really well. I'd be lying if I told you exactly who the 5 champions were. I know Jared Harrison-Hunt played really, really well for us inside. Zach McLeod probably had his best game as a Hurricane since I've been here. So those are 3 guys that, right off the top of my head. Amari Carter I thought played well. So I really can't remember all 5 of them right off the top of my head.
And if I could, just a quick follow on the run defense. Coach talked about, I guess, sort of setting the edge against Louisville, that was kind of where the breakdowns happened with tight ends. What specifically did you sort of isolate, and are those easy fixes, I guess?
Yeah, I think there's a certain way we like to play stretch here, from a philosophical standpoint, and I don't think we necessarily played that way when you go back and watch the tape, and it's something that we can get better at it. Especially at the point of attack, and specifically at defensive end, we have, even though there's some older guys in there, they're still new to this scheme. So I think we'll get better and better. But I think I know it's fixable, and it'll be corrected. But I don't think our guys didn't compete. I just think it was more of a technique issue.
Coach, we're going to go to Chris Stock from Inside the U. Chris, if you had a question for Coach Baker.
Yeah, Coach, can you speak more about the defensive ends with Quincy and Jalen through 2 games? And then also you spoke highly about what Cam Williams was able to bring, and then Jafari Harvey, just how those 2 are playing as well.
I think all 4 of those guys have showed great flashes. And all 4 of those guys are really, really good football players. Like I just said, even though Quincy and Jalen are considered older players, it's still their first year in the scheme. And then, really Cam and Jafari, this is their first year of playing a lot of football. So they're going to get better and better every single week. I'm really encouraged with that group. Like I've said all along, I think our defensive end position is loaded. There's some things, like I said, from a technique standpoint. And the cool thing is they know that, and they know they're going to get better. They both came up to me after the game talking about the 2 older guys and said, there's some things we got to get better at us. And it's not a negative when I say that. I think it's a sign of a mature group. Those guys want to be great, and they are great. They're great players. And like I said, just from a technique standpoint, we just got to clean up a couple things.
Coach, we got a couple more for you. We're going to go to Barry Jackson at the Miami Herald. Barry, if you had a question for Coach Baker.
Hi, Blake. Couple of things. I know how important tackling is to you and to Manny. Couple of Bolden's tackles in that game were really impressive. Are those the types of ones you would show your team and say, this is how we want you to wrap up? And also, anyone who you just haven't had enough snaps for yet that you'd like to get in more, but the game opportunity really hasn't presented itself?
To answer your first question, Bubba was very active. He has some really, really good examples of tackling. I think overall, really, the first 2 games we've tackled pretty well on defense, which is, the biggest staple when you talk about playing great defense, in my opinion. We definitely like to see more players play, especially I think Avery Huff has really proven himself on special teams. He has done a phenomenal job early in the season. He's a guy we need to try to get greased up and ready to get in the game more. Corey Flagg, I'm speaking of linebacker specifically. Isaiah Dunson, we were able to get in kind of late into the game. And the coolest thing about all these freshmen and sophomores is when you look at our special teams, Coach Packey's doing a phenomenal job integrating those guys in, and they are fun to watch. And that's the thing we preach. Prove yourself on special teams, and that's kind of how you get your wings so to fly so much on defense. So we definitely want to roll more players. I think we're doing a good job on defense, playing a lot of players, but especially those young guys. We want as many guys to play and get their feet wet as possible.
Coach, last up for you, we have Matt Baker from the Tampa Bay Times. Matt, if you had a question for Coach Baker.
Hey, Blake, you mentioned that not necessarily you're not expecting a ton to be different with Florida State's offense, even with Coach Norvell out. But Chris Thompson is going to be the head guy. Do you know much about Chris? Have you crossed paths with him?
No, we've never crossed paths. Not off the top of my head. The thing about their offense is they're extremely multiple. I mean, you have a lot to prepare for. So we're going to have our hands full regardless of who's necessarily calling it. I truly believe that. But I can't think off the top of my head if we've ever crossed paths.
Thank you.
Awesome. Coach Baker, thanks for spending a few minutes with us today. Good luck this week in practice, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon.
All right, appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Thank you.